Large explosions and fire were seen near Beirut's international airport, engulfing the area in thick smoke. Planes landed shortly before the explosions as hostilities between the Israeli army and Hezbollah intensified. Hundreds of Beirut residents fled their homes late on Sunday after Israel said it was preparing attacks on sites linked to the financial operations of Lebanon's Hezbollah group and told people to leave those areas immediately. Apart from Beirut, Israel has hit targets in Bekaa Valley as it began bombing branches of Hezbollah-linked financial association Al-Qard Al-Hassan. They reported. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has claimed that its air defense units downed an Israeli Hermes 450 drone. Israeli military has announced that the commander of its Iron Tracks Brigade, Colonel Ehsan Daksa, has been killed by an explosive device in northern Gaza when he stepped out off tank to observe the combat field alongside the officers. Now, during the incident, 3 other officers were injured, one critically, all of whom were evacuated to a hospital. A US and a Canadian warship passed through waters separating Taiwan and China a week after Beijing held large-scale military drills in the passage. Well, according to reports, the US and its allies crossed the 180-kilometer Taiwan Strait to reinforce its status as an international waterway. Angering Beijing further, China's Communist Party has never ruled Taiwan, but it claims the island as a part of its own and has said it will not renounce the use of force to bring it under its control. South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yul and UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy met in Seoul on Monday. In his opening remarks at the Strategic Dialogue session, Lammy said he was glad to continue and build on the two countries' global strategic partnership, while Cho emphasized that South Korea and UK had to cooperate in the face of recent developments on the Korean Peninsula and also in Ukraine. It was the first meeting between top diplomats of the two countries since bilateral ties were elevated to a global strategic partnership in 2023. King Charles and Queen Camilla received a ceremonial welcome at Australia's Parliament House in Canberra. The King inspected the Royal Guard of Honour, received a 21-gun salute and signed both the visitors' books in the marble foyer. This is King Charles' 16th official visit to Australia and also his first major foreign trip since being diagnosed with cancer. Earlier in the day, the royal couple laid a wreath and floral tributes at the Australian War Memorial and placed a floral tribute at the tomb of the unknown Australian soldiers. Meanwhile, as King Charles concluded his speech at Parliament House in Canberra, he was heckled by the Indigenous Australian Senator Lydia Thorpe, who called for a treaty and accused the Crown of stealing the land. The outspoken advocate for Indigenous rights claimed that Britain committed genocide against Indigenous people and demanded the land should be given back. And this as security officials escorted her to the doors. She was heard shouting that King Charles was not her king. Earlier, Thorpe released a statement arguing that Australia should become a republic and establish a treaty with First Nations as part of that process. Georgia's president delivered a strong pro-EU message at a rally in the capital just days before a fiercely contested parliamentary election. Well, he urged people to vote against the incumbent Georgian Dream Party. The October 26th election is widely viewed as a test of whether Georgia returns to Russia's orbit or maintains its pro-Western orientation. While EU last year granted contestant status to Georgia, a first stage towards eventual membership, ties have since worsened since Georgian Dream government passed a foreign agent law in May that critics say is evidence that it is pivoting towards Russia. Draped in EU and Georgian flags, Georgians converged on the Freedom Square to support the four main pro-Western oppositions running this weekend. Seven people, including a doctor and 6 workers, were killed as terrorists targeted a tunnel construction site in India's Jammu and Kashmir. The attack was carried out late on Sunday evening when the labourers and other staff working on the tunnel project returned to their camps. The Resistance Front, an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Toiba, has claimed responsibility for the attack. Demonstrating doctors in the Indian state of West Bengal have agreed to meet the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee today, but refused to end the indefinite hunger strike. The doctors are demanding systematic reforms and a thorough investigation in the rape and murder of a trainee doctor. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee invited the demonstrating doctors for meeting at the State Legislative Assembly after they threatened to launch a statewide medical strike on October 22nd. Pakistan Senate passed the controversial 26th Constitutional Amendment Bill, capping Pakistan's Chief Justice tenure for 3 years. Amid opposition from jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party, Pakistan's National Assembly approved the amendment bill with 2/3 majority. Cuba grappled with a nearly nationwide power outage in its 3rd day as Hurricane Oscar made landfall on Sunday evening in Cuba. The arrival of Oscar after collapse of Cuba's largest power plant, it crippled the whole national grid, putting pressure on a country already battling sky-high inflation and shortages of food, medicine, fuel and water. Cuban president has warned that his government would not tolerate public disturbances on the island after massive power blackout. Hurricane Oscar brought strong winds, a powerful storm surge and rain to parts of eastern Cuba, threatening to complicate the government's efforts to re-establish service.
Pese a que los niveles de lluvias registrados son mínimos y los ríos que circundan la ciudad de Baracoa mantienen relativa
UN Chief Antonio Guterres has urged a major investment in a fund created to safeguard Earth's biodiversity. as he addressed delegates to the world's biggest nature protection conference in Colombia. Guterres made a video address to guests gathered for the event, taking place under the protection of thousands of Colombian police and soldiers, aided by UN and US security personnel. Floodwaters gushed down the street in a town in New Mexico, United States, after heavy rainfall. A street in Roswell turned into a river after torrential rains pummeled eastern New Mexico overnight. According to New Mexico National Guard, quoted by US media, one person died and hundreds were rescued. A flash flooding warning for New Mexico was issued on Sunday by the National Weather Service.
I guess I'm not going in that way.
Heavy rains from an atmospheric river prompted an emergency response in West Vancouver. Roads have been covered in muddy water with debris flowing down various streets. The North Shore Emergency Management alerted the population that rainfall would continue and urged people to avoid trails, forested areas and steep slopes. According to local media, Environment Canada, the forecast up to 150 millimeters of rain near Vancouver Island's coast and also up to 250 millimeters in mountain areas. Waves crashed on a street in the western French city of Saint-Malo, drenching onlookers and cars as France's weather service forecast strong warnings in much of the region. Weather service Météo France placed 6 departments in western France on yellow alert. Is the third highest level of warning for strong waves. Local authorities have advised against staying close to the waves. Cyprus has successfully blocked a digital attack targeting its central government portal. The distributed denial of service or DDoS attack briefly affected the main government portal but did not impact other services. According to officials, a coordinated response by the authorities prevented the attack from disrupting access to key government websites. However, it has not yet been revealed who was responsible for the attack. This marks the latest in a 3-day series of cyber attacks aimed at state utilities and a Greek energy company's Cypriot branch. The US government is investigating Tesla's full self-driving system after getting reports of crashes in low visibility conditions, including one that killed a pedestrian. The probe was initiated after Tesla reported 4 crashes involving sun glare, fog and airborne dust. Investigators will examine the ability of Tesla's self-driving system to detect and respond to reduced visibility conditions and assess the contributing factors to the crashes. Drone maker DJI has filed a lawsuit against the US Department of Defense over its addition to the Pentagon list that designates it as a Chinese military company. DJI has said that the company is neither owned nor controlled by the Chinese military. Instead, it is the largest privately owned seller of consumer and commercial drones. The company claims that due to its inclusion in the list, DJI has suffered huge losses and reputational harm. A team of scientists from Hungary have manufactured a groundbreaking new drone technology called Swarm. This new drone technology allows up to 5,000 drones to fly autonomously and react in real time to the environment and each other while executing individual routes and tasks. The Swarm technology allows drones to make on-board autonomous decisions and safely mitigate conflict to avoid collisions. The company is hoping to see its Swarm technology be used in different sectors in the future, such as agriculture, military, goods, supply and air traffic control. Gold hit a new high as speculators positioned for the US presidential election and West Asia tensions fueled demand. Still, Asia's benchmark stock index saw a moderate rise driven by Chinese banks cutting rates to strengthen the ailing economy. China's CSI 1300 index fluctuated between gains and losses, while shares fell in Hong Kong. China cut benchmark lending rates as anticipated at the monthly fixing earlier today. This is following reductions to other policy rates last month as a part of a package of stimulus measures to revive the economy. Now, the one-year loan prime rate was lowered by 25 basis points to 3.10%, while the five-year rate was cut by the same margin to 3.6%. The lending rates were last cut in July. Officials addressing a press conference last week expressed confidence that the economy could achieve the government's full-year growth target of around 5% and flagged another cut to banks' reserves ratio by the year end. IBM released the latest version of its artificial intelligence models catered towards businesses looking to capitalize on the surge in enterprises adopting AI technology. Now, Granite 3.0 models will be made open. Sources close to other versions in IBM's Granite family of AI models. Now, this approach differs from rivals such as Microsoft that charge customers for access to their models. In turn, IBM offers a paid tool called Watsonx that helps run models inside data centers after they have been customized. An Australian court ordered Qantas Airways to pay a combined $114,000 to three baggage handlers it unlawfully sacked in 2020, implying a big damages bill for a lawsuit involving about 1,700 former workers whose jobs were outsourced. The carrier must use those payouts as test cases as it negotiates with a union on a total damages bill for all of the former ground workers. The airline had claimed the sackings were warranted as a cost-cutting measure during the COVID-19 pandemic and fought the industrial lawsuit all the way to the High Court.